BB851, turn right, heading 180. 14 Papa, turn right 245, report localizer established 27.
Welcome to the first part of a two-part mini-series taking a look at the impact COVID-19 has had on major aircraft manufacturers Airbus and Boeing. Today's focus being on Airbus, with tomorrow being Boeing's. It's no lie that COVID-19 has halted the aviation industry. However, focus has been mostly on airlines, which have grounded their aircraft/capacity, said goodbye to thousands of employees, and retired even their older aircraft. For an aircraft manufacturer, the magnitude of this type of pandemic, though, can be felt across the board. Airbus, often prior to the virus, delivered aircraft to customers around the world, with an expansive portfolio featuring wide-body aircraft and also narrow-body aircraft. Typically, the A320neo family being the most popular option for customers, with it being able to suit various different markets and being a better option than, say, a larger aircraft for those airlines that simply don't need a big aircraft. For the month of March, though, Airbus only delivered some 35 jets. This is down from the 55 in February. However, in regards to their production, they will also be cutting it by a third for their programs. The A350 will see a drop from 10 to 6 per month produced, while the Airbus A330 will see a drop of just over 3 to 2 per month. Meanwhile, finally, the Airbus A320 family will see a drop to 40 per month. Now, this is down 20 from 2019, when they were producing the jet at the peak. The drop showcases the lower than ever demand to deliver jets as more and more customers evaluate their options, while there's also other implications coming directly from COVID-19. The Airbus A220, when introduced, was promised to not exactly be a new aircraft. As we know, it was formerly known as the C series, but one that would indeed slot perfectly into the Airbus portfolio and be ideal for operations throughout America and other locations in need of an aircraft that, say, isn't the A320neo. In my opinion, it's done that so far, welcoming in a number of big orders from carriers in the States, a market specifically that Airbus wanted to dip into heavily with this aircraft. With a higher demand than ever for the A220, Airbus has, since the outbreak of COVID-19, come to the decision to delay their planned production ramp-up for the series. Similar to what I discussed with production, it comes following a lower than ever demand, not just for travel, but airlines needing these jets. If anything, airlines are looking at deferring deliveries. With that, means aircraft manufacturers do indeed have to adjust their own plans. Airbus is hoping, though, to eventually see production climb back up again in 2021. At the moment, it's 4 per month. However, Airbus would very much like to increase this. It's also worth mentioning that the A220 was indeed exempt from the original production cut list for programs in the Airbus portfolio, indicating that when production can start again, they'll keep the 4 per month, just not upping it, as COVID-19 has indeed prevented that. Airbus had, in addition to ramping up production for the A220, wanted to create a brand new assembly line in Toulouse, France, that would indeed be specifically for the A321. A popular model that now we're seeing has the A321XLR, A321neo, and A321LR all join up. Plans, though, for this have indeed been shelved following the pandemic. An interesting take from all this is how quickly the industry can change when a crisis comes into play. Airbus actually indicated only back in January that they were wanting to build another assembly line to keep up demand for the A321, something that they said themselves they were struggling to cope with. However, now, just a few months later, with the COVID-19 outbreak, the concern is when there will actually be demand going back to that state of them not being able to cope. It was also noted that converting the A380's production plant in Toulouse was an option, but for all future ideas, it would appear they've been put on hold. A common theme I will indeed be discussing in tomorrow's video covering Boeing. For any aircraft manufacturer, receiving new orders is a major part of their company. Without airlines ordering jets, an aircraft manufacturer would simply not exist at the same capacity it does now. During this COVID-19 pandemic, aircraft orders, of course, are not at the forefront of airlines' minds. If anything, these said airlines are looking at preserving their cash and liquidity rather than focusing on what aircraft they'll order in 6 months' time. It means that even with the drop in production demand in the future, it still will not be as high, as Airbus and many others will likely not see as many new orders as they may have expected had COVID-19 not rocked the world like this. Take the now cancelled 2020 Farnborough Air Show as an example. If you were interested in aviation 2 years ago, back in 2018, the last edition of the show, airlines were ordering jets literally every 30 minutes for a week straight. And there were some pretty major big orders announced in the space of that week for both Airbus and also Boeing jets, with the pair welcoming in hundreds of new orders. I think it would be safe to assume that we won't be seeing something like this occur for a while. While Airbus still does have that 9-year backlog of deliveries, this could drastically be altered as customers also assess their future options. Say Etihad Airways. While they have already heavily adjusted their future aircraft, we're likely going to see more and more airlines follow in their footsteps, with them potentially looking at deferring major Airbus aircraft that they had on order, or look at options to cancel. Airbus already saw A330neo orders cancelled last month, while LATAM cancelled their A350s, although thankfully they're now headed over to Delta. In some relatively different news, with production slowing and in addition test aircraft not being utilised as much for testing, Airbus has gone about using their A350-1000 test aircraft for flights to help with the fight against COVID-19. The aircraft manufacturer is supplying millions of face masks from China to the likes of France, Germany, Spain, and the UK. In addition, as stated in their press release, Airbus is deploying its employees, their expertise and know-how, and leveraging technology in this fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, in designing and manufacturing ventilators and 3D printed visors, which are critical resources for hospitals. It's something that might become the shining light from this pandemic, seeing airlines and also aircraft manufacturers utilising their time to create in-demand products and also transporting crucial medical goods with aircraft while they're not carrying passengers. Airbus will no doubt feel the effects of COVID-19 for years to come, like most in the industry, and there's most definitely avenues I have not covered that Airbus is also facing following the pandemic. As stated though at the start of this video, this is the first part in a 2-part mini-series covering the impact of COVID-19 and what it has had on aircraft manufacturers, with the impact over at Boeing going live tomorrow hopefully at the usual time of 6 PM British summertime. If you have any thoughts on some of the points I covered, do not hesitate to let me know across over on Twitter. Until the next video, thank you very much for the continued support, and I do very much look forward to seeing you all in the next video.